It is Sunday night. It is Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern has struck, and our F1 weekend is about to come to a close with our exciting Division 1 race here in Zerel. Tonight's race held at the Marina the Marina Bay circuit in Singapore, and not in Bahrain, as you saw in the intro. Mistake on my part. Has been part of the F1 calendar since 2008, and was the first night race ever held. We got 3.12 miles long on this track, offering 23 corners in this extremely tight and technical street circuit. Even its 3 DRS zones don't allow many overtaking opportunities, and with high chances of rain, expect drivers to make some costly mistakes and trigger a potential safety car. As always, I am your host, John Ranger. I'm excited to be here with you all tonight, and excited to be as well to be joined in the booth with me tonight by Nathan Doan. Nathan, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. So, full qualifying night. We've got a full grid. The only reserve drivers we have being Colin Edwards in the McLaren, and we also have quality bans that has been handed out to Luke Locklear due to a post-race penalty last week in Bahrain, and Maxime Beaulieu as well are getting a qualifying ban. A couple drivers are coming out on track. Meanwhile, take us through the standings. How does things look like throughout the after the first week of racing?
Right, so we'll start with the constructors. Mercedes leading Williams by 1 point and 1 point only. Red Bull and Alfa Romeo also separated by 1 point. However, from the top two, they are 12 points behind. So after that, we have a three-way tie between Alpine, Haas, and Ferrari, all at 22 points. Aston Martin at 13 points, AlphaTauri at 7, and McLaren last at 3 points. In the driver standings, we saw Cody Lawrence win the first race of the season after a very, very exciting last lap overtake, and he's got 35 points and the lead of the championship. Behind him is Quentin K. You'd ask why he's only got 25 points, but that's because there was a reserve driver who did take second place in Bahrain. After that, we got Eric Cavallo, then last season's championship winner. Hudson Poole in fourth place, Ryan Newton in the Williams, a very strong showing from him after recovering from the back of the grid, 18 points for him. Marc-Olivier Bastien and Philemon Goulet, both 6th and 7th. And then we got Luke Locklear and Jacob in the Red Bull. Then the Ferrari team principal in 10th, Hector Ochoa in 9th, Cam Bourne in 12th with 8 points, and then the two Aston Martins and Kyle Blevins in 15th. Marcel Pabst, after quite a bad race, I must say. Not much he could have done there other than not make mistakes, but 3 points for him. Then everyone else behind him on 0 points. 3 did not start, which is Major Castleman, Magnussen Cube, and Chase Wilson. Then finally we have Marcel Green, who DNF'd in this race in Bahrain. So it looks like we actually have someone joining us for the first time this season. First season appearance for Magnussen Cube in the AlphaTauri, currently on his outlap with intermediate tires on. Intermediate tires are used in qualifying just to test if everything is working well, maybe on the car, maybe on your at-home rig. Just make sure everything is okay. Maybe set a little bit of banker lap, and most of the drivers are doing that right now. Some people like Cody Lawrence or Major Castleman are going out on the medium tires, something I did last night in Division 2. It's just a good tire to get your banker lap on, so you have a delta that goes green pretty much all the time, and your second hot lap gives you a bit more confidence than you normally would have. But yeah, that's what Q1 looks like, and that's what the standings look like.
And tell me, Nathan, the drivers going out on inters and mediums, as we've seen it looked like it was a Mercedes that was facing the wrong way there as Madison Cube starts his flyer. So these drivers on inters, it's really just a banker lab just to get the feel for the track, get their strategy in, or get their legs warmed up, I guess. But most definitely we should expect these guys to, just like last week actually in Bahrain, a lot of drivers came out on mediums or inters and ended up having to go on softs anyways, right?
Yeah, so I feel like it started in F1 Esports where they were just doing those laps to make sure their rigs were doing okay, like their Fanatec wheels and such, so they can have issues quite often. So they want to make sure that their wheels are doing great before their session goes, because obviously if you're on a hot lap with 2 minutes to go and your wheel fails in the middle of the lap, then what are you gonna do? There's nothing to do, and that is why drivers are out on the intermediate tires. And I think we should see that further in the season. I believe I've got a weather update from Labib. What do we have? It's all dry.
Interesting.
Qualifying and race, all dry race. The only wet race we had, I don't even think it was a wet race. It was just one session of wet qualifying. That was Division 3.
That's
So,
really interesting to see because we could expect at an 80% rate for Singapore race or the qualifying to be wet. So for this to be completely dry, means that the drivers probably not going to be taxed as much physically. I mean, some of our drivers with the high-end setups with the Fanatics and such, as you've mentioned earlier, Nathan. I mean, some drivers last weekend were telling us about how they were drenched and physically tired after the Bahrain race. Could you imagine Singapore, that windy and technical circuit, especially Sector 3 there? You have to be really careful, and any slight mistake could send your car into the wall, and that's not something you want to happen.
yeah, exactly. In real life, we've heard that the drivers are always complaining about Singapore, always in their ice bath, because this is the most probably physically demanding race of the entire season. It's a very, very long lap, around 1 minute 40 in the race, and there's 31 of them. So we're expecting around a 55-minute race that is with dry weather, and if you have the same pace as I. So right now, I've actually been on board with Cody Lawrence. He invalidated his first hot lap, so I'm assuming he does have fuel for just one more lap on these medium tires. Looks like he's just pushing quite, average. You want to set a banker time. You don't really need to push all the way, because if you crash out on your banker lap, then you've got nowhere to go. But Cody Lawrence has got it all sorted out. I'm sure he'll be doing a good lap. Maybe passing Midget Castleman, who is our first appearance in this season so far.
Yeah, and Cody Lawrence last weekend after the win and the interviews we were having with him spoke about how he needed to work on his qualifying pace. He wasn't too satisfied about his pace, and although he had the win, he knew he had a couple things in his racecraft that he wanted to improve a little bit on, right? A little bit of polishing he needed to make, and so that's something we'll be looking out for so far as he's coming in through under the bridge. And the sector he's coming in, speaking of, for the first time this season in the actual F1 season, we're not going to be seeing anybody going under the bridge due to construction. What are those turns 20 and turns 18? So the whole square sector, 18, 19, 20, 21, is basically going to be a straight line. Now, Nathan, how do you think that's going to affect strategies and racing for this year and possibly the years to come? I mean, this could become a permanent thing as well.
Well, I mean, in qualifying, in Sector 3, that's where a lot of time is gained and lost, but with the removal of all those tricky corners, I think times will be a bit more tight, or just a bit easier to do overall. I believe the lap time should maybe go down by, I'd give it at least 3 seconds, probably even more, because after that you get quite a good run into the chicane, which allows you to carry more speed and eventually even carry more speed into the final corners. So I think lap times will improve very, very much, and I think it's a change for the better. It helps the tires be a bit more, don't use as much of the tires if there's no turns in Sector 3. And of course, it's just a bit more of a flowing track now, because the tight and windy corners, it's very hard to overtake through those, but with a big long straight into a very, very good overtaking spot, I would say, is good overtaking opportunity. As we saw, Luke Lockley retire from the session, and for information, he is serving a qualifying ban. I believe we have one more John Ranger, is that right?
Yeah, Max Beaulieu in the Aston Martin, he retired immediately in the beginning of Q1, and so only 3 drivers other than Locklear and Beaulieu will be eliminated from Q1 at the end when we're just under 9 minutes to go. So we're going to see the track times, the lap times go down a little bit more as Philemon Goulet in the Aston AlphaTauri, hits a 136.8, and so that is a first lap made under the soft tires, and we'll see how other drivers handle that behind him. Just to finish real quick about that new track layout you were talking about, Nathan, and how, the change in strategy. I'm just wondering how drivers are going to do those overtakes, because that last corner is not like a perfect parabola, right? It doesn't have like that. It has kind of almost like a double corner, and just if you too far in on the inside, as I'm trying just to for the viewers here. With Cal Blevins here, so you'll see on the left-hand side, there's a lot of curb there going into the pit lane, right? So there's no overtaking spaces there, and you could end up all the way on the right-hand side. So I'm thinking drivers side by side trying to going to that corner. I'm pretty sure there's a high risk of contact and incidents that could happen there as well.
I feel like it might be one of those corners where, you know, if you're getting overtaken and the car to your right who's overtaking you is just way alongside you, it's one of those corners where you just have to concede eventually, which is not what you want in racing, but in reality, that's exactly how it will be. And I have to actually applaud these laps from the two Alfa Romeo drivers, because that lap that you see on the top of the table right now is only 2/10 from my very own Division 2 pole time. So, great laps from these Division 1 drivers. Maybe that shows just how good the field spread is here. You know, Division 2, Division 3 arguably may go hand in hand sometimes, but Division 1 is just in a class of their own. Very, very quick drivers in this league.
Absolutely, and we've just seen Aaron Altmaier after his fast lap hitting a 143.4 lose the rear of the car and smack the wall. I don't know if he has wing damage, and I was a little bit worried for him because he was facing the wrong way around, and something that's happened to me last season in Imola, where you're facing the wrong way around, you decide to floor it and turn the car around. Well, in that situation, I had been disqualified by the game for driving the wrong way, and so luckily that did not happen to Aaron Altmaier. His wing looks from the overhead cam, his wing looks maybe intact. Yeah, exactly. So he'll be able to bring it home and without too much to worry about, and continue on in Q1. But at the moment, he is P15, and so definitely at risk of dropping down the order. The only driver who's not made a time yet, and I think he's just about to come across as well as his teammate, is the McLaren of Colin Edwards. He's the reserve. Marcel Paps in P14. He's going to go 136.3. And so that is 3/10 up on Marc-Olivier Bastien P2, and that is a great time. Colin Edwards at 137.5. That slots him in the 7th position. Great time by Marcel.
Yeah, I mean, that right there just beat the Division 2 pole time in Q1. So, very impressive Marcel Paps. Hopefully this means that he can actually keep it on track in the race. We know that's kind of what he struggles with, but on his day, he is one of the best drivers in the league, and I think we can see maybe a good deal from him tonight.
Most definitely. Hudson Poole just slotted his car in P2, a little over half a tenth behind Marcel, and so were you maybe used to seeing tighter times on top of the boards, and I'm pretty sure these guys are going to go out on scrub softs again later on. We're going to try to see if we can find somebody else going across the line here. I think we have... Is that Cody? No, somebody's... most drivers are going into the pits right now.
Cody Lawrence is on the lap, though. He's just at the fastest sector 2.
Yeah, he did. It was a Red Bull of Jakub Karstowicz, who just went P11, and yeah, Cody Lawrence being in P12, that's not something that that's gonna stay there for very long. Let's go right on board with him. He's going under the bridge here. Or under the stands? Okay, I should actually be saying this is under the bridge. There you go.
Very close to that wall on the right-hand side. Across the line, what will it be for Cody Lawrence, our last race winner? Only the 3rd fastest, but, you know, good enough. 2/10 off of Marcel Pabst. And something I know about Marcel Pabst is that he's a very good technical driver. In these circuits, he thrives. So, we're seeing that right now. And at the moment, it's a bit early to say because lots of drivers haven't done their best hot lap yet. Hudson Poole is maybe getting back to the top of the table here. His competition, Luke Locklear, we saw them go hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah.
I believe they even made contact and had a big incident, but his competition is very far from him right now. He's going to be at the back of the grid, so Hudson Poole will make the most of this race, hopefully, to get all those points back that I don't know if he actually lost points to Luke, but all those points that he could have had, he's trying to regain them tonight.
Yeah, so to put things in perspective regarding the qualifying bands of Maxim and Luke, so for Max, it was mainly a situation of penalty points carrying over from last season, if I'm not mistaken. And so he had the choice of either taking the quali ban in Bahrain or in Singapore. And I have to go look at my notes again. Maybe he took a penalty last week as well. I don't remember specifically. Either way, he's got too many penalties. He's getting a qualifying ban. What's more specific is Luke Locklear's, where initially the stewards applied only a penalty point, and that gives him the qualifying ban, but hadn't given him a time penalty, given that he had slowed down on track, given the position back to Hudson Poole after the incident, and there was also, I think, Macquarie Bastien fighting for position with Hudson. So Locklear really slowed down, gave a lot more than 5 seconds, but due to history and multiple incidents between Locklear and Hudson Poole, and vaguely off the top of my head, since I've been broadcasting, I've seen incidents in Mexico and Zandvoort and Japan, and those are just 3 tracks that comes to mind. I'm sure there's others. I believe Brazil as well. And so it seemed like every time Locklear had an incident, it was with the Red Bull. And so the admins of the league got together, and the decision was appealed to apply an additional 5-second penalty to Bahrain's results on Luke Locklear last week. And so he tumbled down the order, and he's got some points that will be subtracted from the driver standings as well. And so now he finds himself at the back of the grid in Singapore. And I mean, there's 2 tracks you don't want to be in the back of serving quali ban, and it is Singapore and Monaco. And unfortunately for these 2 drivers, well, they're going to have their work cut out for them this weekend.
Yeah, so for me, back to that penalty with Luke Locklear, I mean, in my opinion, a bit harsh, because, obviously he's had many incidents with the Red Bulls in the past, but I don't feel like that means that he has, direct intention to keep on crashing with these Red Bulls. He's no Lewis Hamilton or anything, but I think, Luke Locklear, he gets into many incidents, and I don't know if he's ever, certainly taken the blame for them, or at least if he has, I think he's done a good job to just re-give the advantage that they gained, such as we saw in Bahrain. But right now, all we got to focus on is that Luke Locklear has a big mountain to climb, and hopefully we will be seeing him doing that, because we had a lot of chaos in Division 2 yesterday, and I have to say, if he's back there, like some drivers were in our Division 2 race, such as Syra, a driver who we expected to be very, very high up in contention, did have to serve a qualifying ban, and Syra struggled a lot, ended up retiring, I believe, maybe even causing the safety car. So hopefully that is not the same case for Luke Locklear, but you never know.
Yeah, and Locklear, the main reason why he's gotten the penalties are because of the incident being he's an aggressive driver. He's and that's his style. I mean, it's nowhere near something I'm condoning him for, but he is an aggressive driver, and if he's on the pace, he could make a little bit of a miracle happen here in Singapore. He's the kind of driver that could make it happen. So I wouldn't be surprised for him to see Locklear maybe playing the alternative strategy, taking advantage of a potential safety car. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a top 10 results, as we're seeing the end of Q1 happening here. So most of the drivers are coming in for their final laps. And so to conclude on Luke Locklear, I think if he stays out of trouble and stays doesn't make any contact with other drivers, he'll be all right.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about setups here, because I have to say it's obviously a high down for setup with all these tight corners, but what I've seen so far is that there's one big difference between a certain team, which is Red Bull, and the rest of the pack. If we go on board with Jacob right now, I believe we might see something recurring that we've seen all weekend. It's that their setup is very high on ride height, so they will be able to take this curb on the inside. Let's see if he just takes it here, or if he doesn't. If he doesn't, then I'll look like an absolute fool, and he does.
He does.
So that curb right there, that flat concrete curb, it matters very much if you can take that curb. Will gain you quite a few tenths. However, you do need a high ride height, which for Ferrari, when we were testing out our setup, we figured out that a bit of a high ride height, it gives you a lot of understeer. We don't know if that was actually the case. That's just what I'm saying. But actually, it hasn't helped him at all, because he's out.
Yeah, got eliminated. He's in P16. Aaron Altmaier in the Aston Martin as well. Magnussen Cube, who was P18, just bumped himself up to P13. And so I think we're going to see a Mercedes of Hector Ochoa being eliminated. Jakub Karsowicz and Aaron Altmaier in P18, I believe. We're going to have the confirmation in just a second here.
No, Hector Ochoa made it through.
Oh, he did. It is Cam Bourne, so he made it the last lap there, and so it is Cam Bourne P16 being eliminated. Jakub Karsowicz, Aaron Altmaier, Locklear, and Bowler with the qualifying penalties. Our top Q1 drivers, Marcel Paulson, the McLaren, great performance by him. 136.3 is the fastest time. Hudson Poole right behind him, and Cody Lawrence in P3, Quentin K P4, Marc Olivier Bassin P5. Ryan Newton, another good qualifying for him, showing pace already in P6 there with the Williams, and both Haas's of Marcel Green and Eric Cavallo P7, P8, Philemon Goulet P9, and Cal Blevins P10. So that rounds up your top 10. Q2 will be underway in just a couple seconds. And here we are back. So Nathan, you were talking about at the end of Q1, you were talking about ride height and car setup. So two things that could have a major impact on how the car performs in Singapore is ride height, and I think contrary to popular belief, you're not going 100% full on downforce as if you would be doing Monaco, right? You're giving yourself a little bit of an edge on the rear downforce to try to do those overtakes, mainly around the straight line of that is turns between turns 5 and 6 for overtaking. Is that the correct strategy, or am I wrong?
Yes, the rear downforce will be just a little bit lower than maximum. I've seen personally from other teams 46 around there, but you know, it's really about if you can actually make those overtakes or not. Because one big thing, whether it's rear downforce or not, is your battery management around here. Because the car is carrying so much downforce, it will make it way harder to regain that battery. So you need to manage that battery as much as you can. If there's many safety cars like we saw in Division 2 last night, it will be easy to regain. But after a few laps where you're just using it a bunch, I don't think you'll regain the same amount until you come into the pits. Regain percentage for the pit lane, as Marcel Pabst actually just hit the wall on the inside. I don't think he has damage. Pit lane regain is 10%, around 10%, and the pit lane loss time is 25 seconds. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll keep note of that when maybe we see an undercut or an overcut, because the strategy here, the main strategy, is as it is with all other tracks, hard, medium, and hopefully we'll be seeing maybe some people starting on the medium tire just for a little bit of action for, you know, the crowd, for everyone here, and yeah, so we'll just see what happens for now.
I mean, if you're a medium runner, you could get a well-timed safety car for that free pit stop, and so the chances of that happening here are quite high. Although the fact that it is dry kind of reduces the chances of a safety car. Usually, we're very used to seeing this race being held in the wet conditions. And so that's one thing. And another thing I want to bounce back on what you were saying is regarding strategy, right? If we're bound to see the same thing we saw last weekend. Remember in Bahrain, the top 5 being very, very close together, just following each other very closely in each other's DRS. We might see the same thing in Singapore, and even more crucially, than in Bahrain, where we saw, I believe, Quentin K was the first one to jump into the pits, and that kind of didn't really pan out for him in the end, as much as he would have liked. In Singapore, the undercut could be very powerful over here as well. And so, and add to the fact that, you know, when you get out of the pit lane, your new tires are not at all up to temp, and in a very technical situation, kind of track here we have, it could be really difficult to play the proper strategy here.
Yeah, so the undercut is very powerful kill. The only reason why the Red Bulls haven't actually gotten the undercut last night was because a certain Ferrari driver caused a safety car on the lap that it mattered most, so that meant Dougie Falcons could keep on going, pit, and be ahead of Mr. Freddie Razzle, who later DNF'd on the Anderson Bridge. But undercut, very, very powerful. I haven't seen too many people go for the overcut yet, and from who I have seen, hasn't worked at all. So we will be looking at maybe a pit lap of, if it's a very aggressive undercut, maybe even lap 14, but mostly lap 15 or 16 will be good undercut. So we have some lap times coming in here, such as one from Hudson Poole, who's coming around the final corner now. He's a bit of an oversteer moment in the one before. Let's see what it is to the line. Will it be enough for fastest? Yes, it will. 137.085. Used tires for everyone on the who's just on a lap, I believe. And yeah, so these are the times we'll get quite a bit faster, as I imagine, because the laps we saw in Q1, 6 cents faster than this, and it will only get faster from here. So I'm excited to see what these lap times will be. Maybe a mid 35 even at the end of Q3.
Yeah, most definitely. All these drivers went out on the scrub softs, and so if you're wondering why we haven't hit the 136s yet compared to what we've seen earlier in Q1, so these are the same tires used in Q1. Most drivers will be pitting in and going out. I don't know if they're gonna. They technically have the time to do it, but I don't know if they're actually gonna do it. They might just go back into the pits and wait till the end of the session to go out on the fresh softs and try to get the way better times. And yeah, I agree with you, Nathan. I think a 136 and a half is probably the times we'll be getting here. There's 3 more drivers who are on their out laps. I believe Marcel Pabst. Yeah, so let's go right on board with the McLaren here. He's coming around turn 13 under the DRS zone, coming towards turns 14. He's about to set up his lap, I believe, also on scrubbed software. He had the fastest lap in Q1. Let's see if he could set a really quick one as well here in Q2.
Yeah, a bit of a scrappy one so far. He had quite a lockup in the turn that I keep on forgetting the number of. I believe it's 13 or something. That goes on to the second DRS straight.
Yep.
But yeah, so it doesn't really matter here because right now he's on scrub tires. He doesn't really have too much to worry about across the line. What will it be? Looks like it might actually be fastest, and it's only second fastest.
Very
1/10.
close.
Yeah, about 1/10 after Hudson Poole, as someone is around. I believe that's just a car slowing down for the pit lane. Maybe it was Magnussen Cube, but whatever it was, it hasn't stayed on the track because the track is now clear, and we have Cal on his out lap for, I believe this is his either his second run or his first. I think it might well, it's his first because he hasn't set a time yet, but those tires actually look quite shiny, so I don't know if this is a new set or an old set. We'll see with the time. If it's an old set, should be around the mid 37s to low 37s. If it's new, maybe looking into the 36s.
I mean, Cal Blevins, the kind of driver who can get the car into the 136s. Last or 2 seasons ago, he started out in Division 3 and was winning as reserves as well in Division 2, and he also had a win in Division 1, and was seen as the golden boy for that season, absolutely, with reason, as Eric Cavallo sets the fastest time of a 136.4, and so that's one heck of a banger there, and that was definitely on fresh soft tires. And so I think some drivers are already on their fresh tires, trying to take advantage of the clear track. And so going back to Cal Blevins, as I was mentioning, last season had a bit of a more of a struggle here when the AlphaTauri, but really showed great flashes of amazing racecraft, and also a really good driver on the track. And so this season, I think he wants to keep proving in himself, and definitely wants to improve on himself season after season with everything he's been giving there. It was just on the white line, right? But just so close to being invalidating there, but he doesn't. And so here he comes down in turns 16 and 17, going under the grandstand as well.
I think he may be on for the fastest lap here because from the track data that we've seen, he's got 2 purple sectors, so maybe a good lap. Definitely new softs if it is that case. He's coming very quickly across the line.
A little bit wide.
Won't be, but still faster than Hudson Poole for second fastest. Now we look to the 2 Alfa Romeos. I don't think Marc-Olivier Bastien has done a lap yet because he did invalidate his first one.
Goulet's going to be the next one across the line here.
fastest as I
Wow.
expected from him. 136 to a 9. So very good lap from the Alfa Romeo driver. Now his teammate is starting one right behind him. Maybe we could see a tow situation from the two Alfa Romeos. Let's see what happens on the straight here. Looks like
Oh, he's
Timo
definitely slowing
Meyer
down
is
for
slowing
him.
down. He's gone wide though in that corner. It is a bit of a tow situation. Very well executed from the two Alfa Romeos. But will that wide moment in turn 4, I believe it is, will that have cost him? He's up point zero 0.07 on his first lap, which honestly, I don't know if that's too much, but you know, it's the middle sector and the third sector that is really key for your lap time. So we'll see how he takes this section. We've seen some people take the curb on this right-hander on the inside. Should be taking none of it actually. And then it's a bit of a tricky section here because you have to get off the throttle very quickly. He's gone very deep into
Ooh.
that turn. We'll see what his sector time for sector 2 is as he's reaching it now. Will it be good? Yes, it will be good. It was
It's
around the
3/10 up on
time
his
that Kyle
time.
did. Yeah, and he's gone into sector 3 now. This right-hander, does he have the right height to take this curb on the left? I don't think that he actually needed the right height to take it that way, but you know, maybe still having a high right height for the Alfa Romeo. Anyways, he's kept it very clean through this entire lap other than that wide moment. Turn 4, he's going through the final corner now. What will it be as the ERS runs out 5th gear into 6th gear? What will it be? 136.725. He is 5/10 off his teammate, but I think he's got more time in that lap.
Yeah, most definitely went a little bit deep and wide on a couple corners. Your next drivers to go across, it was Cody Lawrence. And as we spoke in Q1, this driver wanted to have a better qualifying session. And in Q2, so that's a 136.1. And so we're just at the doorstep of seeing our first 135s. I don't know if Q2 with the track evolution and maybe some fresher tires for some of those drivers out there will allow us to see that now. But expect to see the 135s in Q3 so far. And I think he's waiting at the very end of the qualifying session. Marcel Green in the Haas has not set up a time yet. He's still in the pits. And right now, it's time to look at drivers who are at risk. And that includes all drivers P11 and under. So Hector Ochoa, Colin Edwards, Magnussen Cube, Major Castleman, and Marcel Green are in the red zone if the qualifying would end as is. They would be eliminated from Q2. So expect these guys to go out again very shortly for their warm-up lap to improve, as would be, I would assume, about every driver. The times are quite close, right? We have like the top 5s are in the 136, and then there's a gap created, and then P6 all the way down to P9, I would say, is separated by less than 3/10. And so I think most of the drivers are going to want to try to get into that mid-pack times, into the 137s. I'm expecting about everybody from Kyle Blevins down to go back on a fast lap.
Yeah, so we're on board with Magnussen Cube here. He's just gone through the first sector. I did not see how much he improved, but he has improved quite a bit. And he's going through this left-hander. Kind of tricky, honestly. You have to get it just right or you'll go wide and lose a bunch of time. Through this tricky sector, takes the curb nicely, goes a tiny bit wide, but it's alright because he's taking the curb. I think he might have hit the wall there, actually. But whatever it is, he's going into this very tricky hairpin now. He's taking it quite nicely, set up a good exit for this second DRS zone of the lap. Going into the second sector checkpoint, he is 3/10 off of what we saw from Kyle Blevins. So maybe at risk is Magnussen Cube in this session. Will he be able to get through to Q3? He's going under the grandstand now. Very, very good. I think he took it pretty well into this right-left here. Very easy to lose traction, but he hasn't done so. So he goes to the final corner now. Will it be good enough? Let's hope so for Magnussen Cube to the line now. Will it be good enough? It's only good enough for 9th with drivers behind him who are arguably quicker. So we go on board now with Marcel Pabst, the McLaren driver, going very quickly. We saw him fastest in Q1. Will he go fastest in this session, or will it be a bit of a struggle for the McLaren driver? We've seen McLaren struggle in real life and maybe even on this league itself. So, will it be the same for Marcel Paps, or is he looking to break through here? He's gone very nicely through. He's hit the wall on the left side, so I don't know if that might have lost some time, but taking this hairpin very, very nicely. Now, going through this second DRS zone to the line for Sector 2, what will it be? It will be a 1:03.695. That is 3/10 quicker than Cal's time. So maybe Cal in danger unless he can set up another lap, which he will be able to, but Marcel Paps is still looking for that good lap time to set him into Q3 for the first time this season, I believe. So then we have his teammate Colin Edwards also just starting a lap. We'll go back on board with Marcel Paps. Sorry to keep you guessing, John Ranger. But into the final corner now with Marcel Paps. Will it be a quick lap? I believe it will, because to the line now, he's gone a 1:36.070.
Wow.
Fastest time we've seen so far by quite a big margin.
Marcel Green is in the Haas is the next one to actually begin his lap, and there's only 20 seconds left in Q2 there, and so most drivers are going to see them going for their last hurrah, their last warm-up lap, and there goes Marc-Olivier Bastien just in time across the line. Is Lara Cavallo, is he going to make it? I believe so. The Sector 2 flag is kind of blocking the time from me. So I believe we've got all these drivers in, and I'm looking at Major Castleman's the last driver to round up the times, and there's an alpha. Which alpha was that? Was that Cal Blevins? I think Cal Blevins just has spun, and he has. And so he went out on his fast lap. He was going to be the first one to finish his fast lap, and he has spun. And so Cal Blevins just at the doorstep of an elimination, barely a hundredth and a half from his own teammate Magnussen Cube, who will be eliminated. He could only muster up a top 11, and Cal Blevins is at risk. I think the next McLaren driver to go through is Colin Edwards. Let's see where he comes in. Turns around 22 and 23. Looks like it's going to be a 1:37.1, and that is P12. That is done for him in qualifying. We've got a Mercedes coming in through Hector Ochoa, and he's going to have a 1:37 flat, and that is P10. Pushes Cal Blevins into the elimination zone. He is safe for now, unless one of the drivers, either Major Castleman or Marcel Green, beats his time. Marcel Green is the next driver to go through, and he goes P10 with a 1:36.8, and so Hector Ochoa is eliminated with the 1:37s being eliminated so far. Next driver, I believe, is Marc-Olivier Bastien, and he has gone P5, has increased on his time. Eric Cavallo goes P2 with a 1:36 flat, and the Alpine of Major Castleman with a 1:37.3, that was the best time he could get. And those are your 5 eliminated driver. Hector Ochoa and the Mercedes, Cal Blevins and Magnussen Cube in the Alpha Tauri, Colin Edwards in the McLaren, and Major Castleman in the Alpine are eliminated. Q3, we're heading into Q3 once again with Marcel Pabst having the quickest time in this session, but Eric Cavallo is just so closely behind him, and I wouldn't neglect Cody Lawrence and Hudson Poole so far, who are having great qualifying sessions as well.
Also wouldn't neglect the 2 Alfa Romeos. They set their laps a lot earlier than Cody Lawrence, Hudson Poole, and everyone else ahead of them have. So maybe they are just doing a little bit of a sandbagging. Not really sandbagging, but they are waiting to unleash their final pace. I believe everyone here should have 2 sets of soft tires, unless they have done some poor management. But whatever it is, we'll have some very quick lap times, and I think we will indeed break into the 135s.
Yeah, I'm totally expecting these drivers to break into the 135s. Just to finish the tables here with Cody Lawrence and Hudson Poole was P3, P4. Philemon Goulet, Marc-Olivier Bastien. The Alfa Romeos are really close in their times. 2 Williams going into Q3. Now, that's something to look at. Ryan Newton and Quentin Kay also very close into their times. Both of these teams are the only teams with both star drivers. Oh, sorry, the Haas's as well, right? Peter Giordano is in P9 and Marcel Green. And so we're having 2 Haas's, 2 Williams, and 2 Alfa Romeos going to Q3. And for a race where qualifying is so important for these 3 teams to be making it into Q3 for Constructors' Championship, this means a lot for them, but they still have their work cut out for them, as they will be battling out to get officially the pole time here. I've got another $2 for you, my friend. Who are you putting it on?
$2. Let's see here.
A big old Canadian toonie.
Yeah, I've got 2 from you from last week. Still haven't received that, so maybe you're scamming me this time around. But I think it'll be who's seen top both of the sessions so far. It will be Marcel Pabst on pole position.
You know what? I think Marcel Pabst could definitely do it. I like taking a little bit of a risk. And seeing Eric Cavallo's time last session, I think he could pull it out. I think he'll put maybe a rabbit out of his hat and get pole position. Eric Cavallo is one of those drivers that when he is on it, he is nearly unstoppable. And I think he could do that in this qualifying session.
Yep, so I'll make a deal with you right now. If I get 5 correct, pole position qualifying, pole position predictions here, and in a row, if I get all of those 5, maybe you owe me a sandwich or something like that. I don't know. Right now, I'm kind of hungry. That's all that I've got on my mind right now. But
well, I do cook a lot, and I make amazing sandwiches. You could ask your teammate, actually, Aiden Duncan, also in Ferrari seat on Division 3. He's seen some of my sandwiches, and he'd vouch for them, most definitely. And so, out of the sandwiches we go, and back on track. We're watching most drivers going out on their warm-up laps. I assume most of these drivers are using scrub tires. I'm not seeing very shiny tires. Maybe Peter Giordano. I don't know if he's already on his fresh tires, but
yes, Peter Giordano is on his fresh tires.
yeah, he most definitely is, and so that's something to see. Couple drivers are, and you could tell just to make the comparison. If you look at the differences in tires, and now I don't know if it just. I don't expect Codemasters to put so much details into the tire wear, but you know that's something we could be looking at. You could definitely tell that Marc-Olivier Bastien doesn't have the same kind of shine as Peter Giordano on his fresh softs currently. So that's what we're judging on to figure out if drivers are on their fresher tires or not.
So I think we have Peter Giordano, Marcel Pabst, not Quentin Gay. He's on used tires. Philemon Goulet on new tires. Then Cody Lawrence also on new tires. Marc-Olivier Bastien, who's starting his lap right now, used tires. Ryan Newton also used tires. I believe Hudson Poole may be on new tires, but I'm not too sure. Then both the Haas's on used tires will go on board with Marc-Olivier Bastien here. Looks like he's actually taken that turn 4 very nicely. So across the Sector 1 checkpoint now, what will the time be? Will be a 26.907. So very good, taking the curve very nicely on the inside, I must say. Into this right-hander, kind of tricky to get the power out of. He's taken a bit of curb on the inside line. Then he's taken 4th gear into this turn. Now he's going right onto this straight, this very small straight. No overtaking here, but into this left-hander and this right-hander, very crucial for time, as I noticed in my qualifying laps. Into this very tricky left-hander. It looks like he's taking it quite nicely, but I believe his time will be slower than everyone else's who's on new tires. Finally across the Sector 2 line, 1:04.088. About the time we saw from Caleb Evans, who I'll keep on referencing to. Maybe this lap time will be around the 1:37.0s if we're going off of anything. If I get it right, then you owe me half a sandwich. So keep on going with Marc-Olivier Bastien. Everyone now on a hot lap. Hudson Poole the first across the line. 1:35.777. Fastest time we've seen by a huge margin. Eric Carvalho nowhere near that. So our championship leader is finally cooking a little bit. So we see Marc-Olivier Bastien into the 1:36.916 is on used tires. That is very good lap time from the Alfa Romeo driver. Now we'll look to maybe Peter Giordano or maybe Marcel Pabst himself. Marcel Pabst next across the line. These corners, it's not a good lap time.
No, it's not.
1:39.
Must have had a moment and it's better off to abort that lap. Philemon Goulet is next in, and he's at a 1:36 too. So far, Hudson Poole, what a heater! 1:35.7, a lucky lap, right? Really quick one.
Indeed, and Kutike has invalidated his lap. Cody Lawrence goes second fastest, the second driver into the 35s. And it's up to Ryan Newton to see if he can join those two, and I don't think he will, because 32 into the final corner will result in the 36.678. I believe that may have been on used tires, though. actually.
I think he was on used tires, from what I was looking at earlier, and only time is gonna tell. And that's interesting seeing the kind of times that Hudson Pool is just set up, and the defending champion didn't have the best of races in Bahrain, was whether it be qualifying or during the race, with unfortunate incidents and track limit penalties and whatnot. So far, setting a 135.7, sets himself just a little under 2 tenths over Cody Lawrence. If he still has a fresh set of tires that he could use till the end of Q3, I think he might be putting himself in a good position here.
Yeah, and he's kind of been a sleeper pick this evening. And Marcel Pabst, who I predicted to be on pole, if he gets this wrong, then he may owe me a sandwich. But only ninth right now, and he's got a 148.073. I've seen people set that in a race term, so maybe we've seen a bit of a mistake, and it'd have to be in Sector 1, I'd guess, because his Sector 2 was actually quite good. Maybe it was even in the tricky sector of Sector 3, but whatever it was, he needs to improve that, and I think he will.
Yeah, he most definitely has the pace to do so. Now, let's just hope Marcel and Quentin have not been using their fresher set of soft tires for those kind of laps. Quentin K having had invalidated his lap, and Marcel having a moment and not being able to have a competitive time there with a 140. So he's gonna have to set himself 4 seconds quicker when he comes back out for his final lap. And so already, it's interesting. So already this top 10, if you look at the times, it's very consistently just about 2 tenths in between each driver. And so we're used to seeing much tighter times, and I think this is basically the phenomenon of some drivers having gone on their fresher tires and some others going on the used sets. And so when every driver comes out there for their final laps, I'm expecting the grid order to shuffle around a little bit.
I mean, yeah, me as well. I mean, even in the race, it's very difficult to keep your track position if you have a bad start off the line. So, maybe the grid will be mixed up quite a bit. Hopefully, we don't have any incidents. I mean, we've seen what happens on starts and especially restarts, as we saw this morning, last evening, whatever it was for you. But in this Australia real life,
Yes, absolutely.
that is we don't want to recreate that whatsoever. Hopefully, we have no two Alpines getting close together. I believe they actually are pretty close together on track, so hopefully nothing like that. But it is what it is. We're just gonna go with what we have, and hopefully no safety cars. But you can't really stop them if a big incident happens. And now we wait maybe for another minute or so
Yep.
as these drivers finally wait for the final lap, just to be, just just to be done. I know I had very many nerves, a lot of nerves going into my final lap. But luckily, it was enough because Duncan McCambic messed it all up and also got killed by Big Mama Frank in the race. I just had to throw that in. But right now, our first driver, Marcel Pabst, the one and only who I predicted to be on pole position, he's now going out onto the track, and I believe we also heard another driver, also Ferrari powered, if I'm correct. Probably not. Oh, there's a Mercedes, there's the Ferrari, and now we're getting ready to start these final laps of the session.
Yeah, that is Peter Giordano, who is the first one out. So he wants to be have the oh, sorry, there's a McLaren. I didn't see that on the track map there. So Marcel Pabst, actually, given the fact that he's got a not as good of a time there, he wants to be the first one out. Wants to have the clear track ahead of him, so he is out already. Peter Giordano's out behind him. There's the Williams. Is that Quentin K? I believe it is. So yes, it is. Cody Lawrence right after. Marc-Olivier Bastien right behind, followed by Ryan Newton. The two Haas's are going to be following each other. And the final lap, I'm wondering if Eric Cavallo, he's actually in front of Marcel Green. Are they potentially trying to set each other up for a tow there? I don't know if that's what they're going to be doing. I don't know if they even have time to do that, given that they kind of have to have to have to offset each other's laps to do so. So I think they're just really timing each other out. And Marcel being right behind Eric Cavallo, he'll be able to make sure nobody gets up too close to Era to mess up his qualifying as well. And behind them, well, it's going to be followed by Philemon Goulet and Hudson Poole. So Hudson Poole is going to be the last driver to cross the start-finish line in Q3. And so Nathan's put a $2 on Marcel Pabst. I'm thinking maybe Eric Cavallo could pull a rabbit out of his hat. We've got other people watching us on the YouTube channel. Let us know, who are you putting your toonie? We're betting not a $2 American, but a $2 Canadian loonie. A nice coin with a bear on it. Google that if you don't know what a toonie is. That's what we're betting. Who is your driver to get pole position here by the end of Q3? You just have a couple minutes. These drivers are already out on their fastest lap. We're going to go on board with the McLaren of Marcel Pabst. Nathan, don't take us, go through it.
Wow, so he's taking a lot of curbs. He almost invalidated into the turn 2, and now he absolutely dominated that curb in turn 4. What is the time? It's only 400th off, so maybe the moment that he had was not in the first sector. And now he's taking all these turns very nicely. Carried a lot of speed to that corner, I must say. Let's see what he gets through this left-hander. It looks pretty perfect to me. Taking a bit more curb, a bit of a moment on oversteer. Shouldn't cost him too much, but if it does, that will be key to his position and my toonie. So he goes through the section now very, very close to the walls, and he messed up the lap just a bit there. You've seen that he's hit the wall, actually. So will that be defining to his lap here? What is the sector time? Will it be down on his lap? And it won't, by only 7,000ths of a second. So this is where it all matters, right here. This is where he had the moment. It has to be. So he goes through these corners, taking it very nicely. I don't see where he could have had that moment, but he's not having any moments right now. Going under the grandstand for the final time in qualifying. Going to the right-hander now. He's got one more chicane and one fast left-hander to do it. Will it be a good lap? He's taking a lot of curb there. He's not invalidated though. He's going into the left-hander now. Will it be good enough for provisional pole? And it will not be. P3 only. And now, next across the line is Peter Giordano, the one and only. He's the only P4. Then we have, I believe that's Williams of Quinton K.
Sure is.
Coming across the final corner now to the line. It's a 1:35.742.
Wow.
It's good enough for provisional pole position as Cody Lawrence jumps up into second position. Not fast enough, but Hudson Poole, the previous man on provisional pole, he will be coming to the line shortly. As Ryan Newton has finished his qualifying. The two Haas's, Eric Cavallo now into P1.
Wow.
Now, his teammate Marcel Green across the line, only 9 fastest, but the man that we are looking at right now, Hudson Poole.
Oh, he hit the wall.
Yeah, he's going very, very hard into this final corner. Will it be good enough for a pole position? No,
I
it will
don't
not.
think it is. It is Eric Cavallo on pole in the Haas. You owe me a sandwich, Mr. Doan.
No, I own you a toonie, so now we're even. We're even.
A lot of people were calling for Peter Giordano in the chat for pole. He is going to be starting his Ferrari up in P7. So Eric Cavallo, our pole sitter, just 400s in front of Quinton K. What a lap by the Williams driver. Cody Lawrence in P3 in the Mercedes. Hudson Poole puts his Red Bull in P4. Philemon Goulet in P5. Marcel Pabst in P6. Peter Giordano, Ryan Newton, Marcel Green, and Marc-Olivier Bastien in the Alfa Romeo rounds up your top 10. That is Q3 over. And the race is going to be starting in just a couple minutes. If you have not liked and subscribed on our channel on YouTube, please do so right now. And as I'm going to return to this tradition, open one up, guys. It's going to be a fun race tonight.
Will not be doing the same. I do not condone underage drinking.
Listen, between you and I, you'd have a little something, you know? But we're not physically in the same booth, and so I'll enjoy my drink, my beverage.
Take your word for it. As we see the mechanics T-posing for the second time this season, you know, they've got a plan and they've got a mission, as do all the drivers on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the mechanics are also loading into the lobby, all T-posing one into each other. The question is there 3 mechanics or 4? You should expect to see 4, but you kind of only see 3. So where's the 4th mechanic?
There isn't. At least I don't think so.
It doesn't look like it.
Oh, well, whatever it is, we're starting in 30 seconds. So whether the mechanics are T-posing or not, we'll be ready on the grid
Yeah.
very, very shortly.
And
So
hopefully
now,
there's no issues with the lobby, as last week we did have to restart after a full qualifying. And just something important to note, there is no no formation lap to begin with, and this is not a crossplay lobby, right? So we hear a lot of times, oh, it's because it's crossplay that there's issues. There's no crossplay lobby. Everybody's on PC in Division 1.
Yep, so is that a Mercedes starting on the medium tires? But
Yeah,
it doesn't
it
matter
is.
as we got the five lights going. Sorry to take that away from
And
you
we
guys.
go,
We're
and Eric Cavallo does get a great start from there. And there's the Cody Lawrence, who gets over jumped and a little bit of lag there in the lobby, and it's 3 wide. Eric Cavallo has to go off track, and Quentin K kind of got pinched in between the Haas of Era and Hudson Pool, and Hudson Pool will go P2. Cody Lawrence didn't have the best start there, and now the drivers will start to be filing over. And let's just look real quick at the tire strategy. Cam Bourne in the Alpine in P11 is the only driver who will be going on the medium strategies, and Major Castman, there's an incident in the back. He has spun around. There's a sector yellow flag. It is Quentin K who is now with the lead. Hudson Pool in P2. Eric Cavallo lost 2 positions and is now in P3. Cody Lawrence in P4. Marcel Paps gained a position already in P5. Filemon Goulet lost 1. Marc-André Bastien, what a start from him, is gone from P10 to P7. And also, noticeably, Cam Bourne on the medium tires is making them work. He's gained 6 positions already this lap 1.
So relatively clean start. I mean, I believe that everyone has done well, as Peter Giordano may be around, and he is. Does he have damage to the Ferrari team principal? No, he does not, but still a big blow to the Ferrari and driver. And so Luke Locklear into P14. Now good job so far. We'll look into position changes. Our big loser so far, Ryan Newton. Actually, I believe he disconnected, or at least he was ghosted for a good amount of time, and he's dropped down to the back of the grid from P8. Then Peter Giordano, of course, losing 12 positions, as we just saw. The moment that he's had, and Cam Bourne up 7 positions right now. So very good job from the Alpine driver, while he does have to compensate for his teammate going quite low into the grid. So now, it's all about whether you can stay into DRS right now. Because if you have just a small pace difference, as some of these drivers do, then you'll be losing or gaining on the DRS gap, which is very crucial to saving your battery across this track. And right now, someone who hasn't really saved their battery as much as other drivers around him, Eric Cavallo, down into 55% now, when both of the drivers around him are at around 81%. As Cam Bourne makes up another position, starting well on the medium tires, is Cam Bourne, also setting the fastest sector in Sector 1.
Quite at the beginning of the racing camp for Cam Bourne, having been eliminated in Q1, being starting the race P16, and so he's starting on the mediums. He's gaining a lot of positions, using his battery a lot. Already in lap 1, he's taking advantage of drivers in front of him who were battling it out, and he was doing his overtakes that way. And the driver is now going to be able to slot in there and get into the rhythm with the other drivers. Now, strategy-wise, if he's able to make that stick and he's able to make it work, he could be in a position to defend most of the race afterwards on the hard tires after the pit strategies, and that could be a great way for him to be gaining on some points.
So we're looking at Luke Locklear right now. He's taking a bit too much curb, which has lost him a bit of time, but right now he's looking to gain this position on Kyle Blevins, who's had a bit of a struggle, if I do remember. That he's stayed in this good position. Normally you want to be gaining positions, but he hasn't done so at all. Quentin K setting the fastest lap, as Peter Giordano is around again in the tricky section right after the grandstand. And so Luke Locklear will be looking to compensate, as is Cam Bourne, on the medium tires actually, so that is what is helping him so much with his restart. DRS is enabled this lap, so we'll see drivers such as maybe Marcel Green looking to get a good overtake within 3/10 going into this corner now. He's got the DRS wide open. Will he go on the battery to overtake? No, he won't, as actually Hector Ochoa went on the battery quite early, so that is what helped him stay ahead of the Haas driver. right now looking all very tidy between everyone here. We haven't lost too many drivers from the back of the pack so far, but there is about 2 DRS trains here that we are looking at right now. So Hudson Pool is still sticking with Kunike as Eric Cavallo and Cody Lawrence have dropped back from each other. Then Marcel Pabst is sticking behind Cody Lawrence. We've actually seen Marcel Pabst being very quick, so maybe he can replicate that in the race. As the two Alfa Romeos, Mark Bastian up 3 positions with Cam Bourne right behind him, gaining quite a bit of time on the exit, but then losing a bit as well. Cody Lawrence very, very slowly gaining on Eric Cavallo, but he's lost quite a bit more. And so we'll wait for the battles to get close as Marcel Green is still getting closer to Hector Ochoa. Battery difference about 37% in advantage to the Marcel Green. So through this section he's taken a bit more curb, which is give him a tighter line. Will that be enough for Marcel Green to maybe challenge even into turn 1, honestly? Not really where you see most overtakes happening, but it is what it is. And he stays very close, 71% battery. He starts on the battery very quickly. Hudson Pool taking the fastest lap of the session. Will Marcel Green put on the battery? He did flick it on just a little bit, but will he be able to make the overtake? No, he won't. So we'll wait until turn 4, there's a turn 5, and we'll wait for that straight. If he can follow this closely going into that straight, I think he's got a great overtaking opportunity into turn 6. So we look now. Does he go on the battery? Yes, he does, and he stays on the battery. He's making this overtake on the left-hand side, going for the inside line. Still on the battery, still on the DRS, and he's made a very, very clear pass the Mercedes driver of Hector Ochoa.
Absolutely, so a great overtake there by the Haas driver on the Mercedes, and there's a sector yellow flag that is Maxime Beaulieu, who looks like he's gone around, and that is no wing. There's debris on the main road that could be potentially a safety car. Careful there, Peter Giordano's coming up behind him, and there's no more ghosting, and so Peter's gonna try to get over him, and he bumps him there, and he doesn't really know what's the Aston Martin situation with the front wing. He moves over, and so that was the situation there, and there was contact maybe with Ryan Newton and Major Castleman and Luke Locklear. I see him taking a position from Cal Blevins, and Cal Blevins lost a lot of a couple positions. He was in P12 himself, so I don't know if that was a spin.
No, not a spin quite, but he was almost perpendicular with Luke Locklear's car as he was passed. And so that means Kyle Blevins is nowhere near his teammate now, so no defense for Magnussen Cube from Luke Locklear. Drivers who have been teammates in the past, so they know each other's driving style quite a bit.
Absolutely.
And I know for a fact that Luke Locklear is quite a bit quicker than Magnussen Cube.
Yeah, and Luke Locklear, as we were talking about, right? He served a quali ban. He started P19. He started P19 from Maxime Beaulieu. And now he's already in P12, and that was already my prediction during qualifying, where I said this driver is able to get himself into the race, away from trouble. And the fact that he's gained so many positions without having to put himself on the medium tires compared to Cam Bourne, it's just a testament of the pace, the raw pace this Ferrari driver is able to get, and he will most potentially be able to bring this Ferrari at least in the top 10 and salvage a race for the Ferraris, which right now is not having a good night with Peter Giordano having multiple incidents. He's looking on the inside, and he's going to make the overtake on Hector Ochoa, who had a little bit of a bump on Magnussen Cube, and now the AlphaTauri driver is going to be at the mercy of Locklear within the next couple corners here. We're already seeing the light blinking on Magnussen Cube. That means he's completely used his ERS. If we go look at it real quick, he is currently he's got 6%. He's barely got anything left, and Locklear is gonna have DRS and ERS on the next straight. It's not a very long straight. Will that be enough for him to try to make a move? He's not even gonna try to use his battery. He's gonna just follow him up for a while, and so we're expecting an overtake to be done potentially on the next DRS straight. And Maxime Beaulieu, who is really far away, has pitted for the medium tires. I'm thinking he's hoping for a safety car at this point. Had to have a front wing change as well due to the incident earlier, which I'm actually quite surprised did not trigger a safety car.
Yeah, so back on to Magnussen Cube, he's used a lot of his battery trying to overtake Hector Ochoa, but crucially Hector Ochoa did try and stick with him, and that is what caused him to lose that position, Hector Ochoa. And now Magnussen Cube having a bit of a moment out of turn 1, and look how close the Ferrari is getting to the AlphaTauri. After this overtake, he's got a lot of ground to cover, does Luke Locklear, and he is looking to make this overtake right now. I don't know if he even needs battery, but he goes on it anyway, and now he's put himself at a bit of a disadvantage, but he's got the advantage on Magnussen Cube and moves up into P10 into the 2023 F1 points.
Yeah, that is an absolutely great move from him. And now he's 3.3 seconds away from Marcel Green in the Haas, holding in the next position. And Marcel Green being a little bit in no man's land, right? He doesn't have anybody in front of him to get DRS from. And now he's going to try to increase his pace or keep his pace going because Locklear has already gained a 10th on him in 2 corners. And so he wants to be in that... he wants to be careful and not losing too much time as well. Given that Cam Bourne is ahead of him, maybe Cam Bourne's pace is going to drop off a little bit eventually, given the medium tires falling off and the hard tires offering higher performance. Another thing I've noticed so far, Quinton Case kept P1. Hudson Poole, it really looks like he's just playing cat and mouse with him. He's really just being patient. He's got a lot of battery for him to use. You're riding on the DRS on Quinton. And Quinton himself has got half of his ERS used, and he's not harvesting a lot given the setup and the fact that most cars are using very high downforce here. And he's getting on the ERS a little bit to keep himself away from Hudson, and Hudson's just kind of baiting him into using his battery a little bit. Hudson, you see here just a little burst of the ERS here, and gets all the way almost on the rear on Quinton K, and so I think he's going to make the move eventually, but he's really just playing the patient game with the leaders so far. And probably thinking strategy, Hudson Poole right now is in a great position if he's thinking of doing the undercut on Quinton K as well.
Yeah, so a bit of a moment for Marc-Louis Bastian last lap. He had a big moment going into the Anderson Bridge, but whatever happened, he has regained that advantage that he had on his teammate. So now back into the DRS, Cam Bourne looked for a moment where he could have gotten an advantage against Alfa Romeo, but he hasn't. Maxime Beaulieu with the fastest lap, however, he is 20th and 35 seconds off the back of the pack. So right now, all he's got to worry about is just keep on going, hope for a safety car. That's all he got to do. But at the moment, we're still looking at the front, and like we saw in Bahrain, they are very close together. Maybe not all in a DRS train, but whatever it is, they're still keeping it very close, and I expected them to actually drop off from each other quite a bit because it's hard to follow as Major Castleman gets a 3-second time penalty. We've seen quite a few drivers get time penalties this weekend, but not today until Major Castleman decided he wanted to get one.
Oh, and Major Castleman is into the wall. As we were looking into him, he lost his rear, and I believe he loses his front wing completely. Has he triggered a full safety car? He has. And so right around turns 17, 18, 19, right after the grandstand and before the Anderson Bridge, he could barely even make it into the pits. Is he going to cross over again? Yeah, he does. He tried braking and completely locked up. And he gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And Major Castleman, that is a retirement from him. Too much damage on his car, probably too much emotional damage for him. That is the end of his race.
Yeah, so I mean, I was just talking about him getting a penalty, and already he's gone from the track. And quite a big event here with the safety car coming out. And it doesn't really take a lot here because, the street circuit with lots of debris on the track with the front wing all the way gone, that caused a full safety car. So I don't know if we've had anyone pit, but so far we haven't. But like I was saying actually before, Maxime Beaulieu, he's now going to have a big smile on his face as he is looking to come back to the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and if you're Cam Bourne, you maybe thought about pitting, given that you're on the medium tires and you could get on the hards and probably make them last till the end of the race or almost. But the thing is, track position becomes so important, right? He fought so hard to gain all those positions, get that P8 on the mediums right now. I'm pretty sure the mediums are still good for quite a number of laps for him. What would you do, Nathan, if you're in his situation? Are you thinking about pitting, or is that not the right call to make?
Well, I mean, if he pits on the hard tires, well, I don't know if he can, but if he does, then he can go easily to the end of the race as Cam Bourne.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, there he goes.
Oh, there's your answer to our question. So he is pitting, as most of the grid has already been grouped up. So he is essentially, unless anybody else goes into the pits as well, he's essentially going to be restarting the race in the back of the grid. So that would be P19.
Colin Edwards.
Yeah, there is other people. Yeah, Colin Edward pits, and Aaron Altmaier does as well. And so 2 other drivers, and I don't know if those are drivers who had maybe had damage, or Peter Giordano as well. We'll just keep an eye on these guys. No, it looks like just a tire change. And so Colin Edwards, Arnold Meyer, Peter Giordano go from hard to mediums. Cam Bourne goes from mediums to hards. We have Maxime Beaulieu, who's so far behind the pace. I don't know if he had another incident or if he's just slowly catching up. Otherwise, everybody else stays on their hard tires. And now we're getting some split strategies happening here. Maybe some strategies are implying that there could be a potential other safety car. I'm quite shocked, and I don't know if you have the region, if you have an idea of for the strategy behind that for Colin Edwards, Aaron Altmaier, and Peter Giordano pitting so early in the race.
I don't know if those medium tires can even make it. Maybe they're hoping on, the safety car taking a while to go in. But at that moment, just have to say this is looking very good for Cam Bourne and the Alpine. He's on the hard tires, he's on the newest hard tires, and everyone ahead of him has to pit quite soon. So, if he can just keep it on track, he has a very good chance at even winning this race.
Yeah, definitely, because while everybody goes on, through the whole pit strategy mayhem, he's done his. He's got his free pit stop. Sure, he's on P15 right now, but as you just said, everybody ahead of him has to pit. And so, the question is, how far ahead will the leaders of this race be compared to Cam Bourne? You mentioned, I believe, 25 seconds in the pits. And so when Quentin Kay and Hudson Poole and the likes of these drivers go into the pits, we'll be looking at the time between them and Cam Bourne. And if Cam Bourne is able to come back on track and be in front of those drivers, that will allow him to play defense and probably go for a better position in the race. And now, that's another head scratcher there. Jakub Karsovic in the Red Bull is the latest driver to go into the medium tires. And so he's put himself behind every other pitted drivers as well. And so was that a moment of hesitation, or is there strategy behind the fact that everybody pitted a little bit earlier and he thinks that one lap difference between the other drivers of Colin, Aaron, and Peter will make the difference for him?
Man, I got no idea. I really don't think those mediums can last up until the end of the race. I mean, if they do, then good on them, but I think they might even go into puncture territory here.
That's to be expected, right? Because you mentioned hard to medium strategy, and hards would be pitting around lap 15, 16, right? And so we'd expect the mediums to normally be, 20 laps, maybe, if they really, really push them. Like, normally around 50%, you're thinking about pitting, 50, 60%, right? So if you're pushing it all the way there, we might see our first punctures. Actually, I've never seen a puncture. To be fair, I've never seen a car actually have a puncture, I believe, in a race. So that could be something that happens here in Marina Bay.
Yeah, so something Jacob can do, if he just holds on for a bit to catch up to the pack, maybe he can cause the safety car to... Oh, never mind. He's in the safety car's in this lap.
Yep.
So throw that
and no manipulations of the safety car as such. That is something that admins are very adamant about. So if Jakub would have wanted to slow down the pace and trigger the safety car to go out and run another lap, stewards might be looking into that for manipulation of the safety car, which we are trying not to allow as much as possible. And so, Quentin Kay snaking around, slowing down the pace. The safety car is going into the pit lane this lap. Here he comes, just coming out from under the grandstand, trying to put as much heat into those tires. And I'm wondering how successful these drivers were at warming up these hard tires on the street circuit like this one. And when will he take off? The Hudson Poole is ready to pounce on it, and there he goes. Full throttle, and away we go. We're back racing. Quentin Kay leads, and Hudson Poole actually was able to keep up with him quite well. And looks like there's an incident in the back. Colin Edwards, is that at the end for him? He is into the wall. I think he's completely DNF'd. Can't see what's happened there, and he has had a 3-second penalty from what I've seen, and then into the wall, and that's not going to be another safety car. So interesting. Somebody completely DNFs. No safety car, not even a virtual safety car. Locklear gains a position, overtakes Marcel Green. It's side by side going into on the inside here. And so Luke Locklear, P8, starting P19th on the race. So far, great drive from him. And Hudson Poole was not able to make the jump on Quinton Kay, who played his cards right on the race restart.
Yeah, so we're having a bit of action in the midfield actually with Cam Bourne. He's kind of getting swamped right now. And he, a bit of a moment for Aaron Altmaier, which held up Peter Giordano quite a bit. So, a bit of action happening as Cam Bourne goes wide again, has a bit of an oversteer moment as well, I think. Back onto the battery to regain the advantage that he may have lost. And Aaron Altmaier will not be able to close back up, as Ryan Newton gets a 3-second time penalty right behind Kyle Blevins, so he's gotten a time penalty for just pushing a bit too hard, pushing the track limits a bit more than they needed to be.
Yeah, he tried to get on the inside of Kyle Blevins, and Kyle didn't give him the space, and Ryan, having to go a little bit too deep on the curbs, had done it too often, and so that gives a 3-second time penalty. And Kyle Blevins already had some time penalty as well. I don't remember if it's a 5, it's a 3, so he had a 3 as well, and so Ryan had the advantage on Kyle and lost it, trying to push a little too hard there, and so that's a bit unfortunate for him. Lesson will be learned in that situation.
Yeah, so right now Hector Ochoa is kind of burning his battery a bit more than he needs to. Kyle Blevins just knows that he doesn't have to do any of that, as Aaron Altmaier is around. No damage on the Aston Martin, I don't believe. But, you know, another Aston Martin separated from the back of the pack once again. Do we have any overtakes going into turn 6? No, we do not. At least we haven't so far. And we'll stay that way. So, everyone's still trying to keep it calm, you know, after the restart. You know, got to keep your battery nice and managed, because that will help you. Actually, I don't know if it'll help you as much now, because you will be pitting quite soon, all these hard tire runners. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about drivers like Cam Bourne. He's got a great advantage on this entire pack right now. Can easily go to the end, and will he be? Maybe
he'll be good.
Yeah.
If Quinton was to start his pit proceduring right now, Cam Bourne is 8.5 seconds away from the leader, and so that would allow him great timing to overtake all the drivers in front of him. But he's definitely gonna have to. Given that he's clearly got better pace than drivers in front of him, and so eventually he's going to want to be trying to be making a move there on Ryan Newton, on Kyle Blevins. He's got the fresher tires, and it's very apparent while they're cornering there. You see a lot of understeers from the drivers in front of him as well. And so DRS being enabled now this lap, he's burnt off maybe a little bit more ERS than he would have liked, but I think he'll be positioning himself to make a couple more overtakes, as we're seeing like 2 DRS trains forming, basically P1 all the way down to Marcel Green, and Cam Bourne gets himself a 3-second time penalty, which is maybe the last thing he wanted. If he's thinking about the pit strategies working for him in regards to a potential race win, that 3-second time penalty will most probably hinder his chances greatly for a win and even a podium for this race.
Yeah, so right now, if Hudson Poole and Quinton Kay pit right now, the gap between Cam Bourne and the rest of the pack would be around 17 seconds, and that is going down still, as big moment from Kyle Blevins. Ryan Newton trying to go down the inside. They almost make contact, but Kyle Blevins does stay ahead. There's actually Cam Bourne is alongside the Williams of Ryan Newton. Does he stick it down the inside? Yes, he does, but Ryan Newton still fighting back. Too wide into this corner, they make contact. Almost into the wall goes Cam Bourne, and Ryan Newton does have to concede that position. And Cam Bourne still in the DRS train, but he's got an angry Ryan Newton right behind him.
Yeah, Ryan Newton was not a driver who was very easy to overtake. A little bit of tire rubbing there, but Cam Bourne made the move stick. He was so close to being pushed into the wall, and that would have been absolutely catastrophic. He just made it through there just in time, and that is P13 for him. Ryan Newton is behind him, and he's looking to overtake Kyle Blevins now.
Yeah, so a bit of a crazy moment, but luckily everyone is still in contention for just finishing this race. But we're seeing now, like we have seen before in Bahrain, the top 8 are all in one big DRS train, and drivers like Luke Locklear with no battery and
Ooh.
Cody Lawrence, who just got a 3-second time penalty. Drivers like Luke Locklear with low battery do need to stay into this DRS train, or else they won't have any chance of regaining the battery whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Cody Lawrence, that 3 second time penalty is very painful. That is something I'm already hearing himself probably scolding himself in his helmet because of that 3 second penalty. That could drop him down the grid quite a lot. Right now, if the race ended, he would probably lose a couple positions at least. Kyle Blevins making an overtake for P11, actually fighting with his teammate Kevin Magnussen, P12 and P11. And both of them fighting kind of opens the door for Cam Bourne to split the AlphaTauris, and Cam Bourne's on the outside of Kevin Magnussen, same place where he overtook Ryan Newton earlier, except on the opposite side, and he had to concede for Magnussen Cuban, so almost made the overtake. A little bit of potential. I think he made contact a little bit with the wall, maybe just a bit of rubbing there, and Cam Bourne was really close to overtaking Magnussen Q. Cal Blevins was able to escape a little bit the whole situation. A lot of pressure on the AlphaTauri drivers coming from different drivers. If it's not Ryan Newton, it's Cam Bourne, and now it's his teammate as well, trying to get pressure. And you could tell, look at the weaving, look at Cam Bourne trying to find that space right behind Magnussen Cube, and Magnussen has got no DRS as well, and so Cam Bourne's trying to go, and Hudson Poole is in the pits. He's going to go for the undercut on Quinton K, something that we should have, that we expected. And so Hudson Poole is going to be in the back of the grid, and Cam Bourne tries to go on the inside on Magnussen Cube. Is he able to make it stick? He doesn't. Magnussen Cube on the outside still. Down into turn 5 they go, and so he's using all the battery he has, and he's going to have the DRS advantage and the corner advantage. And so Cam Bourne makes it stick, and that is an overtake for him, and he also gets DRS, allowing him to keep his distance away from Magnussen Cube. And careful, Hector Ochoa, diving on the inside of Magnussen Cube. So Magnussen is actually losing positions. Ryan Newton is all over him as well, as is the Ferrari of Peter Giordano. There's a bunch of fighting in the back of the grid there. Magnussen Cube will heated up his tires immensely, fighting Cam Bourne, and that's just a whole domino effect. Maxime Beaulieu overtakes Ryan Newton. Peter Giordano's all over the gearbox of Magnussen Cube, and so all of this triggered quite a couple drivers losing positions and gaining positions. And so Cal Blevins P9, Hector Ochoa P10, Cam Bourne 11, Cube 12, Giordano 13, and Beaulieu 14. Ryan Newton, who just a while ago was P11, is now P15. And P16 now because the Red Bull just dove into on the inside there. I don't know if there's a little bit of contact there, but now he's got Red Bull ahead of him, and so Ryan Newton, I think his tires have absolutely given up on him. I don't know if it's a setup situation here, but I'm thinking he's going to have to pit sooner or later.
Yeah, so right now we're seeing a lot of action in between drivers in places you would normally expect for Singapore circuit, as wow, Hector Ochoa went into the pit lane at the very last moment, maybe scaring Cam Bourne off a little bit, but multiple drivers into the pits now, including Marcel Paps, Luke Locklear, Hector Ochoa, Maxime Cube, Maxime Beaulieu, actually pitting with everyone else. And that, I believe that was actually the strategy for those who pit onto the medium tire under the safety car, is pit with everyone else ahead of you. So now Hudson Poole is coming up the field as he should in between the pits. He's 10th with his teammate 10 seconds ahead of him. So he's got a lot of ground to cover to Cam Bourne right now, but Cam Bourne does not have to stop again. So it's whether Hudson Poole can keep that gap down within 15 laps as he's pushing very hard, almost hitting the wall there. Will he be able to go back for the win? But it's all up to the people ahead of Cam Bourne, whether they hold him up, whether they pit, and whether they stay ahead of Cam Bourne after the pits. And all of them shouldn't, because everyone ahead of him, I mean, even first place is only about 10 seconds ahead of him, so this is looking very good for Cam Bourne indeed, as we have predicted before.
Yeah, most definitely. Something that's worth noting, Maxime Beaulieu is back on the mediums, right? He started the race on hards. He had that incident with his front wing, pitted on the mediums, and stayed out during the safety car, right? And now here he is on fresh mediums fighting for P17, but he's out there with the other drivers as well, and so he's in fighting position. And by the time the drivers in the top, I would say the top 6 drivers end up in the pit lanes, I think Maxime Beaulieu is going to be much closer to them. However, he is under attack by Ryan Newton, and Ryan Newton looks to do a little bit of a switchback there on the inside. Does he make a move? No, he decides not to. Oh, he's got on the inside. He's got a better. Oh, he makes a bit of contact on the wall, Ryan Newton. He's all over the place. A little bit of track cutting there, trying to overtake Maxime Beaulieu as much as possible. He doesn't succeed in doing so. And Maxime Beaulieu is going to keep his position in front of the Williams. A lot of position changes being made because of other drivers completing their pit strategies. Philemon Goulet in the pits. Luke Locklear pitted the lap earlier. Marcel Green and Kyle Blevins are in the pits. So only Quinton Kay, Eric Cavallo, and Cody Lawrence have not completed the pit strategies. And it's already been 2 laps, nearly 3 laps for Hudson Poole since he's tried the undercut on the drivers ahead of him. And so we're seeing a little bit of a situation from last week's race in Bahrain, where Quinton Kay was the first one to go into the pits. Nobody followed him to cover off the undercut and ended up turning it against him through an overcut strategy. Is that what's going on with the top 3 there, trying to protect themselves from a Hudson Poole overtake?
Well, I don't even know if that would work because Quinton Kay is going quite long on this strategy, but right now that hasn't really helped him because Era has closed up quite a bit to the back of the Williams, still within about 6 tenths, 7 tenths now, but do the top 3 pit right now? Will the top 3 pit, and will that let Cam Bourne into the lead? Ooh,
He looks like he is.
Moment. Quinton Kay into the pit, or race leader into the pit lane. Does Cody Lawrence follow him?
Era does not follow either.
Interesting.
So our pole sitter is now back in the winning position, P1, and the drivers behind him, Cody Lawrence and Cam Bourne, are both drivers with penalties, and so all he's got to do is keep him behind him or stay closer with them, and that will allow him to take the win from this race. It's not over yet though, because drivers behind him, this is where it's going to get interesting. You know, we're seeing Jakub Karsowicz. It's lap 18. He's got 8-lap-old medium tires, right? He's sitting in P4, which he's not been in this position at all, whether it be in qualifying or during the race. And so the real question now, will these medium tires take him till the end of the race? And I know, Nathan, you already have your doubts, and I'm thinking maybe as well, but he set himself up to give that position to Hudson Poole, potentially, being the second driver at Red Bull, and then he could defend Hudson Poole from Marcel Paps and Marc-Olivier Basset, who's behind them as well. And so there's maybe a bit of team strategy being done here by the Red Bulls, at least they're in the position to do so, compared to other teams currently on the grid.
Yeah, so right now I'm looking how quickly Hudson Poole has closed that gap from 9 seconds down to 5 seconds in between him and Cam Bourne. So if he continues at this pace, I think striking distance may be, I'd say give him 3 laps and they'll be side by side. But, that's a bit bold. But right now, it's all about the team management, because right now Jacob looks in a very good position to maybe even stick with Cam Bourne, but that doesn't matter if he can't stick with Cam Bourne, so he'll have to give up a position to Hudson Poole. If he does not, and Marcel Paps gets the 3-second time penalty, which really hurts him against everyone around him. Drops him almost 3 positions down all the way to Luke Locklear. But right now, it all matters about these 2 drivers in the front. I mean, think about it. They've been going for so long now. Lap 19, maybe they're even going for a soft tire run. But I don't think that would be the optimal strategy, as they don't last very long. But right now, it's all up to whether these tire managers can keep on managing or they will pit this lap.
And looking at the strategy call from Aaron Cody, and depending on when they're going to pit, I mean, safety car situations can still happen. We're starting to see on the track map a lot of drivers starting to group up, 2x2s, 3x3s, and such and so on, right? As Peter Giordano is making an overtake on Hector Ochoa, as we've just seen on the grid map. And so those kind of situations, every overtake is so risky on this track, right? If there's another safety car, Is that not the perfect moment for Era and Cody to go a little bit longer on the hard tires? And when the safety car arrives, they jump on the mediums and gain the tire advantage on everybody else on the grid.
I mean, of course it is, but right now, it's about whether the safety car happens or not. We've
Yeah.
seen late safety cars happen from absolutely nowhere. BMF and Duncan having totally random moment, and then Freddie Razzle also taking himself out. Just anything can happen here.
Cody Lawrence is in the pits. And so he's the first one in the pits. And so for him, it would be an undercut on Era Cavallo.
Yeah, so actually very crucial here. So Jacob has closed into the DRS of Cam Bourne, and Hudson Poole only 2.5 seconds behind. He can see the Alpine that he wants to overtake so badly for the net lead of this race. You can see him right in front of him. But it all matters whether Jacob can let him by, or does he maybe just want to fight Cam Bourne, because look how much battery he's got. And Cam Bourne is blinking on the battery as well, so this is all about how greedy Jacob wants to get. If he doesn't be greedy, it's all for the team. Go on.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Cody Lawrence went into the pits. He wasn't P2, and because the pit strategy is quite a long one, right? The pit lane speed is 60 kilometers an hour compared to most other tracks where it is 80, right? And so the longer pit lane strategy causes him to drop down to P11. And so even if he has the better tire strategy, he finds himself just slightly overtaken by Marcel Green, and he's got to go all the way up the grid on a bunch of other drivers who, with 11 laps to go in this race, they could really just keep their rhythm, and Cody would have to spend so much time trying to overtake other drivers. Would he be able to get back up on the grid? And so that's the same situation that could happen to Era Cavallo at any moment now. And is he going to pit? It looked like, yeah, he's in the pits now. And so Era Cavallo is in the pits, and usually we see the driver in the undercut so powerful here. I would expect to see Era falling in just behind Cody Lawrence, but that's what we're going to be seeing, because that's an important portion of the race. Otherwise, Cam Bourne, well, provisionally has the lead of the race, but only on track, because this 3-second penalty is really harming him right now. And so here he goes, Era Cavallo out of the pits, and his teammate right behind him.
Red Bull swapping positions.
And Red Bulls are switching positions as they are. Okay, so Era Cavallo is now P9, Marcel Green P10, and so that allows him to defend against Cody even more. Marcel Green's making a crucial play there for the Haas there, for Era Cavallo to run away with it and maybe gain a couple more positions. Now, Jakub Karsowicz played his role, allowed Hudson Poole to get into the DRS, and now we have Hudson with fresh medium tires compared to Cam Bourne's older hards, plus a 3-second time penalty. Hudson Poole's got himself in a really good position to run away with this one.
He's going to go for it now.
He's doing it right now. He's on the outside lane going into turn 14, and he's got it. He's got the top speed compared to Cam Bourne, and Cam Bourne wasn't really going to fight it. I think he's just trying to harvest his race here. And so he is now in the lead of the race. Hudson Poole in the Red Bull, and Jakub Karsowicz also in a podium position being P3. Cam Bourne in the middle. Actually, technically Jakub would be P2. And so we're looking at a potential Red Bull 1-2 at the end of this race if everything goes as planned. And it's Singapore, and plans, well, usually you don't say those kind of things in the same sentence. Anything could happen in Singapore, whether it be another safety car, an incident, or a spin, because once these tires start to get used up, especially on the rears, it starts to get a little bit slippery. This is a street city circuit, and so gotta be really careful on the throttle here around some of these corners and the curbs as well, depending on the setup, the ride height, as you spoken earlier, Nathan. These drivers can go.
Yeah, so back onto the constructor standings. This obviously means that Red Bull will be taking the lead, and look how bad. Well, not, I don't want to say bad. I'm not gonna slag them off there, but look how relatively not good the two other teams are going right now. Mercedes and Williams. I mean, Williams are in good positions overall, but at the moment, this will not be good for either of them, as we have an Aston Martin around. Does that damage? Yes, it is damage. but will it be enough for a safety car? There's no
It's
wing on
not.
that Aston Martin, but it will not be a safety car. Green flag on the track stays. That is the second time Maximilio has lost his wing, if I do remember correctly.
Absolutely. What a frustrating race for Maxim. I was speaking earlier about how he was playing himself back into the race here, maybe able to gain a couple positions and salvage his race, and that is not what's happening now, and he's in limp home mode again. Once again, he's gonna have 9 laps to go. We'll see what kind of tires he's got left on his car. But that's one thing for sure. That'll be a second wing change for him. And look at the interval of Hudson Poole and Cam Bourne. And somebody goes around. Is that Marcel Paps in the McLaren? Yeah, there's a McLaren going that's gone around. I'm trying to see if I could gain a view on him there.
He still got his wing.
Yeah, so he's still got his wing. So he had a moment and had a slip up and lost 3 positions. Marcel Paps being P9. So almost 3 seconds, 2.7 seconds between Hudson Poole and Cam Bourne. So between P1 and P2. Jakub, within the 3-second gap, Cam Bourne is going to be losing due to his penalty. Marcel Paps with his spin has given another position to what I would say is driver of the day so far today, Luke Locklear in the Ferrari. He is in P6 right now.
Yeah, so at the moment, if Luke can close up to Quentin K, just anywhere within the DRS zone of him, I believe Luke Locklear may be in for P5 here, because this time penalty that Cam Bourne has, it's really not helping him at all. It's going to be dropping him 3 positions at the moment to Jakub. Marc-Olivier Bastion, who's had a great race, by the way. He's on for a podium right now if he can just keep it on track. Quentin K as well will be gaining a position from that time penalty, 4th position. I'd say it's well deserved from him, actually. He's been having a good race. As who is that around?
That's Maxim.
Again.
Yeah, I think this is frustration. That is definitely frustration from the Aston Martin driver. I think they were expecting a much better beginning to their season. As of now, Arend Allmeyer is only P13, Maxim Bowler is P18. We're used to seeing the Aston Martins usually in the top 10, but so far in Bahrain and now in Singapore, it's not been their best races. And I think coming out of the pits, Maxim Bowler maybe went a little too hard on the throttle, let the frustration gain the better of his foot, and spun it around. And whether he spins it or not, I don't think that's going to change anything in regards to the results of his race, unfortunately, for tonight. This is one where it's forget as quick as possible and focus back on the next weekend for the next race. Which, Nathan, I don't know if you have access to your Discord real quick. Where are we racing again next week? I kind of have... Oh, we're in COTA. We're in USA.
We do have an Easter break, though, next week.
It's true. So. Absolutely. So next weekend we are off due to Easter. We'll let everybody have some off time, spend their times with their loved ones, with their families, with their pets, with their cats, whoever you got around with you. Spend your Easter break, and the week after we will be back, and it'll be in USA at the Circuit of the Americas, and we're also gonna have a sprint race. So really a loaded beginning of the season, right, Nathan? We've got 2 races in a row. The first 2 races of this calendar with full qualifying, and the third one giving us a sprint race.
Yeah, I mean, exciting, very exciting for everyone who's racing, but for me at least, it's not too fun because last night our race did go to about 11:30, so it is what it is at the moment. But I'm still looking at this man right here, Jakub Karczewicz. I think that's how you say his name. 92% ERS. He's kind of like me in the sense that he doesn't use a lot of battery, but someone who uses a bit too much is Cal, and he is around. I believe he may have either reset the track or had a big moment.
He just had a spin and lost position to Peter Giordano, just coming outside from under the grandstands in turns 15 there. And Maxim Bowler gets a 3-second time penalty, so why not add insult to injury in his case?
Yeah, I mean, I saw how he got that penalty. He just absolutely had to cut the corner. But right now we actually have some on-track action between an Alfa Romeo of Philemon Goulet and Eric Cavallo. And almost into the back of the Haas goes Philemon Goulet, and he's lost a bunch of time. Cody Lawrence is going to be right on the back of him now, but will not be able to overtake, as this is just not the place to do so. But yeah, kind of scary to see a car going that quickly into your rearview mirrors, I
Oh,
must
yeah.
say.
Yeah, absolutely. When you know the driver behind you locks up, who's not racing with any ABS, and locks it up and is coming straight for your rear wing. It is. I like to call this a code brown kind of moment for the driver in front. Another thing I wanna point out, the drivers who had incredible pace, and I'm talking about like Eric Cavallo and Cody Lawrence mainly. They've been in front of the grid for nearly the entirety of the race. They've got the fresher tires, but making up positions for them is nearly impossible, and that might explain one of the reasons why Cody got a 3-second time penalty for track limits. He's trying to find the very limits to do those overtakes, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but if you get the penalty of doing so, you're only going to be losing positions. And so Hudson Poole and Jakub Karsiewicz played their cards right in regards to strategy. Earlier, we saw Karsiewicz go into the pits maybe a little late, and now he's got 5 laps to go in his medium tires. I'm thinking his medium tires are going to be screaming at him at any moment, and he'll be under fire by Quinton Kay. But either way, that is a way better result expected from him. A way better result than was expected from him, as he was disqualified in Q2. So he was, I forget which position he started at.
Around.
Locklear is around. Yes, indeed, and looks like he had a moment. I don't know if his wing is damaged. It looks like he's got a clear wing, so I think more of a spin or a moment. That's unfortunate for him because he's lost just about 4 positions due to that situation.
I mean, incredibly unlucky. I know he was very close to the back of Marc-Olivier Bastien, but I don't think there was contact. I think there may have been just a slight error. If that's not the case, then maybe we will be seeing some tickets. But yeah, he was in such a great position. I mean, he still is from where he started, but at the moment, I would certainly be wishing for more.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at that train. Look at the difference between Hudson Poole and that DRS train going from P2 all the way down to at least Philemon Goulet. But if you look at Marcel Paps and Luc Locklear, they're not really too far behind. As there's another moment with Maxime Beaulieu once again. I don't know if he's, at this point, he's only driving with one hand. Given the amounts of spins he's had. But look at Hudson Poole. He is now just about 7 seconds ahead of P2. I don't know. I've seen something not so long ago about a Red Bull flying so far ahead. We basically forgot about him.
Bit of contact between Quinton Kay and Jakub Karsiewicz. Right now, I was just about to mention, actually, who got a time penalty. That's Quinton Kay, who's got a time penalty now. But I was about to mention how I don't think Jakub Karsiewicz is actually going to be overtaking Cam Bourne. He doesn't really need to, and he's using his battery in a defensive manner because his tires are a lot older than Quinton Kay's. So at the moment, that's all that matters. But if Quinton Kay keeps on going into the back of Jakub Karsiewicz, we might have a big issue here, as Marc-Olivier Bastien got very close to the back of Quinton Kay for quite a moment there. But it is all about whether Quinton Kay can get past Jakub Karsiewicz. Would it even matter? Because he does have a penalty now. So that actually allows drivers such as Marc-Olivier Bastien to be on the podium now. Eric Cavallo going to be P4 probably after these penalties here. But right now, all that matters is, as I said, you keep it on track. If you're a driver behind a driver who's got penalties, then all you got to do is just stay behind unless you're being under threat from a way quick driver.
Yeah, only thing I could think about right now is Quinton Kay is going to want him to do the overtake as quick as possible if he believes he's got the higher pace, and I'm sure he does, given the tire differences between him and Jakub Karsiewicz. And so Quinton is going to want to overtake the Red Bull as quick as possible and use the last 4 laps of racing that we have left here in Singapore to try to gain the 3-second distance he needs to secure that position and secure that podium. Otherwise, he's going to be dropping down on the grid, and that will not be the ideal way to finish a race for Quinton, who's had a very respectable race. There's another Sector 3 flag. Looks like a quick moment there for Ryan Newton, who's got a 9-second time penalty for track limits, and so not a great race for the Williams, who showed a lot of a prospect during the race in Bahrain and also during qualifying in Singapore, but his race was absolutely subpar to what he's shown us already, and a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I think he's going to go on softs to go for the fastest time. And oh, Jakub Karstwich has a little bit of a oversteering moment. And yeah, Quinton's looking on the outside, and they're gonna go side by side. It's a little bit of tire rubbing. Quinton K doesn't make the move stick, and Jakub sticks to his P3. And oh, that was quite a close moment between both of them. And Quinton K, I think was very respectful in regards to the Red Bull and not sending it completely as I was thinking he might have done. He seemed to let go and let Jakub go to avoid an incident there, and so he's gonna have another chance at this. I'm really thinking Jakub's tires are not agreeing with him whatsoever at the moment, as is Cam Bourne's, who's I mean, gotta give him to both of those drivers. Their tire management is really good, but with 3 laps to go, I think we're in puncture territory, at least for Jakub Karstwich.
Yeah, with Jakub Karstwich actually battling with Quinton K, I'm saying that this is only going to get better for Cam Bourne here, driver who's definitely deserved the place that he's earned today. But at the moment, it's just so crazy to see Quinton K pushing so hard, but also pushing a bit too hard. We saw him side by side on that low straight, but we also saw him deploy the battery right when he didn't need to, cause him to get a bunch of wheel spin. Right now, Jakub Karstwich is only slowing down Quinton K, because if Quinton K can't get past Jakub Karstwich, he's going to be losing the position to all the 4 cars.
He's going to be able to do so right now. He's got the DRS, he's got the ERS as well. It is Williams versus Red Bull for the top speed going into turn 7 here, and it is Quinton K P3 despite his time penalty, and he's going to try to run away with this one. He's going to be slowed down by Cam Bourne nonetheless, but Quinton K, great move down on turn 7 on the Red Bull. Peter Giordano getting a 3-second time penalty. We're seeing drivers, bike markers mostly, going into the pits for soft tires and trying to steal each other's fastest lap as much as possible. Magnus Mcube is the latest driver to dive into the pits in P16 for the soft tires. 3 laps to go, or 2 laps and a half, should I say. It is Hudson Poole, P1, 10 seconds ahead of Cam Bourne. Hudson Poole, the defending world championship, world champion, I should say, from the last 3 seasons, didn't have the greatest of races in Bahrain, and is showing. Oh, and there's Quinton came to the wall. I don't know if he's got damage there. These drivers are pushing their cars to the absolute limits. Quinton nearly drove his car right into the wall as we were viewing him, actually. And I don't know how he does it, but he saved his car, fortunately for him, and just with only a couple minor scratches. Jakub Karstwich is under attack by Marc-Olivier Bastien. Will he be able to make the move stick here in turn 1? And he does. Marc-Olivier Bastien goes into P4, and that is a sizable move for him because Jakub Karstwich also loses another position to Eric Cavallo, and so his tires are not agreeing with him. And I'm wondering if he's having issues there. Is he in puncture? Does he have a puncture? Because every turn he's so slow now, and he's behind Cody Lawrence. In a matter of a half a lap, he's lost 4 positions, and he's about to lose another one to Marcel, to Philemon Goulet. Sorry, the other Alfa Romeo, and he does. So Jakub Karstwich, 20-lap-old mediums. Oh man, he's lost so much pace there, and I don't think his tires are letting him go through. And oh, Philemon Goulet gets a 5-second corner cutting penalty, gaining a position, and so I'm wondering what that one was for, but I'm thinking that might be looked over by the stewards after this race.
Well, what happened here? Marcel Green has just gotten past the pair of Jakub Karstwich and Marcel Pabst, and now Luke Locklear is trying to go down the inside of Marcel Pabst, and he does. What a great move from the Ferrari driver, looking to get past all of the places that he lost before. But actually, Marcel Pabst is looking to go down the inside, but doesn't. And so that will be the end of the action for that little bit, but I do know what that penalty was for Philemon Goulet. As we saw, he was forced wide by Jakub Karstwich just a little bit. He's forced off the track into that corner where there's a lot of runoff after the big braking zone, and he stuck into that position, and he made that overtake, gained an advantage by cutting a corner. That is what that is for. But at the moment, he will not have to serve it in the race, so he may be able to get that appealed, as honestly, I don't think there's anywhere for him to go. But at the moment, it does not matter, because he does have a time penalty. He's looking to maybe lose 3 positions here. But right now, Jakub Karstwich, he's gone from Red Bull 1-2 position to, I don't know if he's even going to be in the top 5 anymore.
Oh, Jakub is currently P9, and with the
Oh,
time penalties, we're gonna see what where that gives us. And I think his tires are just about on the limits of puncture territory there. As we're seeing the final battles, it's lap 31 of 31. Hudson Poole is going to be our race winner. He's finishing up the last race. Cam Bourne and Quentin K with their penalties might be just a little bit ahead enough of Marc-Olivier Bastien, which, due to fighting with other drivers earlier, maybe have lost enough time to them. We'll be seeing about that earlier. And Eric Cavallo is going to try. He's looking on the inside. There's a little bit of contact. Carvalho has got to give the position. Doesn't make it work. Marc-Olivier Bastien closes the door on the Haas driver, who's all over the rear of the Italian team of Buffalo Trace, being the team principal. Eric Cavallo tries to make the position stick, is not able to, and I don't see any other overtaking opportunities as of now. As going around turns 22, 23, Hudson Poole wins the Singapore Grand Prix. That is a great performance from him. He is 11 seconds ahead of Cam Bourne, who is now coming in across the line in P2. An amazing race for him. And Quentin K in P3. Time penalties are being applied now. Marc-Olivier Bastien, as it sits, will be taking P2. Cam Bourne P3, Quentin K P4, Eric Cavallo P5, Marcel Green for the two Haas's, P5 and P6. Cody Lawrence, a bit of a disappointing race for him since the pit strategies, being in P7. Jakub Karsowicz, who played an essential role, I believe, in Hudson Poole's victory, slowing drivers around him, and he went so long with his tires. He's going to go P8. Luke Locklear, who was way further up in the grid, starting from P19, unfortunately for him, had a moment, so he goes P9, Philemon Goulet P10, Aaron Altmaier P11, Marcel Paps P12, Peter Giordano P13, Cal Blevins, Hector Ochoa, Magnussen Cube, Ryan Newton, and rounding it up, it is Maxim Beaulieu, Colin Edwards, and Major Castleman have DNF'd due to incidents and crashing their cars, both of them, and so... Wow, we're just waiting for Maxim Beaulieu to finish up his lap on his end, but what a race, and I gotta say, what a strategy for Red Bull, for both drivers, honestly.
I mean, yeah, but I just have to look at one driver and say, well done, man, and that is Cam Bourne. I mean, the strategy we all expected
Absolutely.
him to maybe get a win for the... Oh, is Maxime Beaulieu just spins across the line. Good one, man. Anyways, so... that is the end of the Division 1 race for tonight, but we are not done yet because we have interviews, we have all the information that you need about this race. But still, my driver of the day goes to Cam Bourne. What a great performance from the Alpine driver.
Yeah, I agree, right? I think that it goes through a trio of drivers, but Cam Bourne, I think, showed an amazing pace right in the beginning with his medium tires. Got a lot of positions that was gained from that. Gotta give kudos to Luke Locklear, who gained most of his positions on track instead of pit strategies. And Jakub Karsowicz, who had started way further back and finished his P8, and so that is a good amount of points being gained by the Red Bull team. Putting up the constructors' points on screen right now, real quick. Nathan, you were talking about Red Bull having a sizable performance there, as is Alfa Romeo. Williams is only gains only points from Quentin K, and Mercedes did all right to salvage their weekend, but we're going to see a lot of teams being moved around on this the constructors table. I'm thinking especially about Haas with their 5 and 6 position is going to put them in front of Alpine.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the two Mercedes here. I don't think they've got enough points to keep their lead together, which I kind of expected. That means Red Bull are now, I believe, leading both championships. If I look at the driver standings now,
Yeah.
the next challenger was Cody Lawrence, and he's definitely been dethroned tonight. And then we also have, actually, Cody Lawrence. So 7th place, that's what, 12 points? Something like that. 14, something like that. I think they might actually be level on points. If not, Cody is one clear of Hudson Poole for the championship. But that might be because Philemon Goulet got his penalty and he's dropped 3 positions. So
Well, I could change things after the race, definitely. That's right.
a bit of a confusing one for tonight, but all I gotta say is great job for Hudson Pool, Marc-Olivier Bastien, who actually might be into the top 3, but we'll ask him soon as we get ready for our interviews.
Yeah, most definitely. We're gonna have our interviewers ready for us in the broadcast room in just a minute as well. We have already in the waiting room Marc-Olivier Bastien, who is the P2 finisher, Hudson Pool, who is the winner, and we're waiting for Quentin K at the end, aren't we? Or was it Camborne?
Camborne.
It was Camborne, my bad. So let's see if we could get him in a minute. If we don't get an answer from him too quickly, we'll do the opposite order and go for the 1, 2, 3 and start by Hudson. But let's give a moment for Camborne to join us. As usual, each of us will ask a quick question, and I'll round that up with the driver. So for a total of 3 questions for our interviewees. A lot of battles in Singapore while we're waiting for him. A lot of battles in Singapore. Maybe a lot more battles on the track itself than I expected. I was expecting maybe more of a DRS train and drivers just following each other. A lot of action despite all this going on. And we didn't need the help of rain to spice things up.
No, we didn't. And we have Camborne in the waiting room now, so we will bring in Mr. Camborne. Welcome to the interview room. How was your race?
I'd say it was pretty stressful towards the end. Thankfully, Cub was an absolute hero.
Absolutely, Cam. You started the race. You were the only driver to start on the medium tires, and you made that work out for you. Was this a mix of luck when we're thinking about when the strategy, the safety car came in, which allowed you to go quite long on the hard tires?
Yeah, I think so. I thought it was actually too early. I thought I was gonna just drop like a stone towards the end, but I think having like Cub behind on old tires too kind of gave me a bit of a buffer. But yeah, I was hoping like 3 or 4 laps later for the safety car would have been perfect, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so towards the end of the race, literally everything happened behind you. There's so much contact and so many overtakes going on behind. As you saw those happening behind you, were you thinking just like, yeah, I got this podium secured in the bag?
I was staring at the intervals pretty much any chance I could, and going into like the final corner, I think I looked and I think it was Arrow was like just slightly over 3 seconds, so I kind of had to send it a little bit through the final corner and just hope that I stuck.
Well, great performance from you, Camborne. An amazing race. We're having an off week next weekend due to the Easter break, but then the next race is going to be in Coda. Just want to know real quick before we close off the interview with you, what are your feelings about Coda, and if you're excited to race that race with the sprint race as well?
Yeah, I didn't really get to practice a whole lot for this race, to be honest, but for 2 weeks out now for Coda, I should be able to get quite a bit of practice in, so we'll see. Hopefully another good performance.
All right, thank you, Camborne. That was our P3 finisher, Camborne. Thank you much for your time, sir. And so we're going to move for our P2 finisher, if you want to bring him in, Nathan. Marc-Olivier Bastien.
And here he is.
Welcome again to the broadcast booth, Marc-Olivier. Another exciting finish for you. This time gained a couple positions gained in the end due to penalties. Walk us through the intensity and maybe the difficulty of this race, and staying focused for the entirety of the race, given that it's very technical. Compared to other drivers who had time penalties, you had none, and that was the advantage at the end.
Yeah, I crashed in Q3 like a bot, so I started P10. I think I could have got in the top 5, maybe top 6 with a good lap. The only lap I did in Q2 was with old tire. The race, and it's Singapore. It's just waiting game. I did a little undercut on some guys, work well. After that, I don't think I did one. Yes, I overtake Cub on track, and I think that's it. So yeah, good strategy, good pace. At the end, I think Arrow was a little bit aggressive. I could have got P3 if he was just behind me chilling because of the penalty. So instead, he got, I don't know where he finished, but I got P2, so that matter.
Yeah, not too many questions for me. Just great job. You know, you survived it all. There's a lot of chaos around you, but you managed to keep it all together, and good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Marc-Olivier, final question. We are having an off week next weekend, and then it is the Circuit of the Americas and USA with a sprint race. How are you approaching your preparations in regards to that race?
Yeah, I like Kota. Last time in Kota with Zerial, I got a podium, so I will aim for another podium. It's not the best track for pads because, I mean, it's not the first sector is terrible on pad, but sector 2, sector 3 is alright, so I'll have to practice sector 1, and if I can do it well, it will go well.
All right, thank you for your time, Marc-Olivier. That was our P2 finisher. Congratulations, félicitations encore for your podium here in Singapore. We'll see you next weekend, or 2 weeks, in 2 weekends. All right, our P1 finisher. It's time to bring in our winner, the one and only Hudson Poole of the Red Bull. Hudson, welcome to the broadcast booth. That is a win for you in Singapore. After a bit of a disappointing race last weekend in Bahrain, you absolutely dominated the strategy, finished over 10 seconds from P2, from your closest rival. How are you feeling after this race, Hudson?
Feeling amazing, dude. Good to be back in this channel. After last race, I was so annoying, and I thought maybe I won't even win a race this season because the grid is so skilled now. Like, it's insane with Quinton and Cody and honestly everyone, Marcel Pabst. And I think what really won me the race today was NVA. He got a really good pit strat call for me, and the undercut just was really good today.
Yeah, so when you got off on the medium tires, we saw you catch Camborne at a rate of about 1.5 seconds per lap. You know, with that pace, do you think you are still the fastest driver in Division 1, or maybe not?
Quali pace, definitely not. Again in quali, I had a 0.7 banker, which is really good. Going into my last lap, I get too nervous and I always mess up. But race pace, I would definitely not confidently say I'm the fastest driver, but I would say I'm definitely up there for like driver championship. But my race pace can very much contend for wins, I think.
Hudson, after the pit strategies, you ended up just a little behind your teammate Jakub Karsovic, and did the switch for to allow yourself to attack Camborne, who was in P1 at the time. How essential of a role did your teammate play in this race, who unfortunately for him, his tires completely gave out at the end, but it seems like he slowed down everybody who was even thinking of trying to catch up to you and battling with you?
He was a lot of help. He had an incredible race. He started like P17 and he made the tire stick. It was really nice being able to, he gave me the position so I could attack Cam, which was really nice, and let me pull that gap. He also held the rest of the other drivers back, so of course that helped as well. Deeply appreciative of what he's done for me this race.
Absolutely. And final question, because I've asked everybody this so far. How because of everything we've spoken about, right, with race pace and qualifying and getting a bit nervous on the final stint and trying to get that pole position, now you have 2 weeks. Next week is the Easter break. You have a week off, and then you have COTA. So how is going to be your preparation with 14 days until COTA?
I probably won't play too much F1 in the gap week. On the week of, I'll start playing F1. I might do a little bit, but COTA, I like COTA. Home track, gotta win, of course. I did win last season's COTA, I think, and so I'm fairly confident with that track. I think I can put in a good position. But yeah, in the gap week, I don't think I'll be playing too much F1.
All right, so taking a break and allowing you to maybe regain focus once we're back on the grid and 2 weekends. Hudson, congratulations once again on your win. That potentially puts you in P1 in the Drivers' Championship or tied with Cody. But one thing for sure is Red Bull is back on top in Division 1 for now after the end of round 2. So congratulations again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep. Thank you.
Nathan, we've had an exciting race. Once again, Division 1 showing up and really showing us great racecraft, great race strategies. What do you think we are to expect in 2 weeks' time in Coda?
Well, I mean, with Hudson Pulse, sandbagging as he does, I think he's still definitely the fastest driver. But if he says he has competition, then I think we're in for a very, very exciting season in Division 1 and seasons all around us, because we've had, certain one-off events like Syra having a qualifying ban, put Red Bull out of contention for that race in Division 2. So now it will be whether Red Bull and Ferrari can keep their battle going in Division 2, whether Red Bull can stay ahead of everyone else in Division 1, and I forgot what's happening in Division 3, but I think we have a lot of action ready for this season. Sprint qualifying for next race at Coda. So, next race will be very exciting, as Coda is probably one of the best places to have an extra race because racecraft is just so good. Battles are always very clean, except when they aren't in Coda. So, hopefully a lot of good action, and yeah, that's all I got to say.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's something we'll be covering in our next broadcast, but how the setups of these drivers and their cars could really have a strong impact to the race. You have that straight back end straight line speed that you can get, or if you got a higher downforce and gain a lot of positions and time in Sector 1. And so all these kind of things will be important to be looked at in Coda. But first and foremost, what I'm going to say is Happy Easter to everybody, because next weekend we will not be online, we will not be live, it will be the weekend after. And so I'm wishing everybody to have a great time with their families, with their folks, with their loved ones. Once again, to our current viewers, if you have not liked and subscribed our channel, don't hesitate to do so. We've got a lot of racing every weekend with Division 3, 2, and 1 on our channel for F1 as well. Let's not also forget that there's the Discord link in our description. So if you're watching and you're a driver and you're curious to see where you slot into our ZRL pack, we've got a bunch of reserve drivers, reserve seats opens weekends in and out. And so with a lot of people in the Discord and great community as well, you'll notice they almost never argue in general chat, especially not now. And so really great community, great team of people to work with, and a great bunch of guys to race with as well. On that note, I'm gonna bid you adieu and wish you a good evening, good night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And I'll see you in 2 weeks back in the broadcast booth again, Nathan. And thanks a lot for doing this with me again.
Yeah, of course, and good night, everyone.